Right, game first, and then we'll talk about the ban restricted announcements. I'm very much enjoying this actually. It's nice. Lectures in the morning, and then this sort of resets my brain. Then I can crack into assessments. Alright, against Riptide. Crush the Weak kind of help. I feel like most arrows are 4 or above, right? Or otherwise they're not worth taking. We'll go better and the old ones, I think. It should just generally be a rough matchup, right? With how much they can just shut down what we're doing, because we have reacts and we have greater than. So this is nice. Do I want to get rid of the pummel is the question. I should probably get rid of one of the pummels. I swing? I can't swing if I tectonic. I'd have to get rid of both pummels. I want to keep at least one pummel. Just pass and heave. What's the best sort of start? Like Sigil or something? Or I guess Bow. An Arsenal card. Can I deviate? I mean, Headbutt's not fantastic. It still gets blocked out here. Try and go Titan's Fist for the damage. That was just a cycle. Which tells me that they are fatiguey. I mean, cracking New Horizon would be very nice. It gets blocked out too easily. I think chip damage would be the only thing I care about, and then I lose a pummel. See what they respond with. They did have an arrow. Interesting. We definitely want to see Headbutt again at some point, although I probably shouldn't stack two pummels with one another. Debilitates for free. You can cycle that. Is there a point setting up Leyline? I'd rather it next turn because I can go Promising Leyline, I suppose. And we want to block out. So 4 and a 3, right? Right. Armor, piercing. I still want to cycle with the shield, but I guess I'm keeping the blue because of the piercing. That should still be the surf shaking then, even though I go 1 over. But I don't really want to give gauntlets. I guess I do want to give gauntlets. I'll do that. And final question now what we want to play, which is fine. Go Promising. Though maybe Debilitate's still better. I just like this because it's bigger. Don't need the surface shaking. Hold on to the attack. I do like the idea of being able to set up Seismic Surge next turn again. And we basically don't really want to have a pummel, right? Because then we don't trigger anything, because we never have go again. Only a few cards have the greater than inbuilt. Yes, we're taking the damage. You get an extra card, and so take the damage. Whatever we draw is free, which is definitely nice. Could have been something better, though. Card all cards other than action cards. With Crash and Bash, and I can cycle the Surface Shaking, I suppose. A bit early to do it. I could also just get the other 2 block out of the shield. I guess that's not so bad. And I'm most likely playing Smelting. Cranial Crush. Melting's still better, I think. Play the Surface Shaking, though. I suppose I might as well Tectonic. I think we're just trying to get damage across. Beautiful. Boulder Drop can come back first. Consistently getting the eruptions. Defense reactions are fine. So it's better off of, I guess, the eruption since I have the other one. So the block should be them and Providence. And I guess cycle the eruption. No matter what I draw. Well, the yellow means I can still Tectonic with it, so I might as well keep the yellow. I don't want them to force a discard. Instability would be nice to get the damage across. Nothing we can destroy with batter, unfortunately. And then I guess I'll keep the Providence for later. I don't care about the Surface Shaking proc. I don't know how we close out the game, because we're going to run through all our 10s. And eventually not have enough damage. I suppose the first time we don't see anything really disruptive. Because Remorseless is not the worst thing to take. We're just slowly chipping them down. Putting their place is nice. Your shot is a 7. I mean, I don't really want Overswing in my arsenal, so I don't actually mind destroying it. Sort out turn B. We play this, go to 5. We can play, put them in their place of 1. Means we don't need the binding. Problem is the negative counter. Which goes on to Crown anyway. What's that? Play that. Bitch. Eve gets destroyed, but at least I get my counters, right? I think that's fine. Oops. There we go. Always forget to turn on priority. And exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. Though, if they have double codex, then it's a little annoying. That's reaction. Oh, cool. Oh, super need the heave then. Oh, right. This was literally brought up about the wording on heave. Beginning of your own phase. What's Stick and Destroy? at the beginning of your end phase. Shouldn't I get to pick? Hmm. That's free. That's a 5. I guess we're just playing Boulder Drop. I mean, ideally it'd be this and play Batter. Eh, we'll let it go. I could also just keep the solid ground. No, I waste my options there. I like to pitch, then that means they're taking the Endless Arrow back. Also don't want the Blood Rot. Also don't really want to give them the Ponder. Chokeslam's better. Yes, Chokeslam's kind of better. But we can end up losing Leyline here. Whereas with the Batter, there's so many cards in this that I want to turn priority on, but I hate clicking through. Double trap. Nope. Cool. Leyline sticks around. Which means we're blocking out. Like to heave. So it is just loser put them in their place, unfortunately. I think they've run through the majority of their disruptive cards. Right, we've seen one Murky, one Remorseless. No, they still have a decent chunk. We can make Binding free, or I can look for something better. I mean, at this point, Crown becomes worthless anyway, so I guess we might as well cycle. But I'd rather the Surge off of it, though. I guess I'm cycling the Prismatic? Or maybe the Eruption. I like all the Prismatic. I'd rather keep the Dominates. That's definitely nicer. It means I should play the Eruption. Florian coming back with Germinate. I mean, people will definitely try it out. Doesn't seem necessarily fast enough, though. Maybe Gravy's slow enough now? Hey, Alex. That is still better here. Don't necessarily want Bolt Drop. I mean, we haven't really seen any pummels. 4 of the bands in Germinate. Oh, doesn't have Go again. I think not greeting pummels was correct here. Let's see, Assassin gets somewhat slowed down. Gravy. I don't necessarily know if the tipples do enough, because basically all it shuts down is the ability to construct your hand nicely. Well, I'm definitely not pummeling. Actually, no, we've seen Buzzsaw, but it should just be all the ones that are greater than. So it was slow down. Pitfall, don't care. Tripwire means pummel doesn't work, and attack reactions don't work. So yeah, our goal is not to do any of that. So, as much as I'd like to pummel, I'm probably not going to. Boulder drop, probably still isn't enough. I would assume out of all these they kept Spike Pit, right? No, probably actually Tripwire. Unless we pay 1. It's doable though. I mean, we have enough life where Spike Pit doesn't matter. It has to be Tripwire. And Tripwire we can just get around. So it should be Boulder Drop. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fine. Granted, they might have other traps. What else do we not want to see? Don't care. Buzzsaw's gone. Yeah, I think it's fine. We have the resources. Yeah. Am I pitching 3? Also, isn't he meant to resolve the pummel first? I don't know if the inertia necessarily triggers. I feel like it's meant to be after the pummel resolves. Oh, that hits anyway. Yeah. We'll act like the inertia did trigger. Because I'm pretty sure that's obviously what they meant. Surface shaking's nice though. So right, when this hits, they banish a card. So we banish a card, meaning I don't care. I mean, our turn is just pummel surface shaking. I want to stash the cranial. Final. I don't want to reveal it though. Now, technically, can't I swap these around? We'll see. Because that's my mentality. Because that's how the heave should have worked, right? I can pick. Anyway, surface shaking. Do that. Then the whole priority. Sparking reactions first change anything. Yes. So he wanted inertia to trigger, and inertia requires our attack to have greater, which it would have if the pummel had resolved first. Similarly, no, if they had played, if the opponent has activated or played a reaction, that's fine. But the ones that are greater than has to resolve. No, so they get to pick, I guess. They're their triggers. But with the heave, I could have resolved Seek and Destroy first, and then still heaved in an earlier turn of the game. Good to know. Just taking the 5. Final Crush, that's Tectonic. Which I suppose I don't, because then I can either pummel for the damage, and also Surface Shaking this hand. Because I'd like to just keep the Dominate damage coming, because I think that's just how we win. They'll be running out traps sooner or later. I mean, what are the chances they pummel? Well, great, is the answer. I mean, we can deny this take a turn, because I do have the Overswing. No, I can't, because I'm one resource short. I feel like it's just block 7, deny the trap. Pitch into Tectonic. Three face down traps, choose one at random. I mean, we can gamble it. We do like to gamble. Could be Buzzsaw, Tripwire, Pendulum, Inertia. We want to cycle. I think Spinal Crush is enough. I don't think we actually go for the react. So our turn is Spinal Crush, pitch, float one, and then pummel the overswing to stick it in our arsenal. As in play. I mean, technically, yeah, I could still pummel, need be. Well, they have been just blocking with them, anyway. And here we're fine just putting the damage out there. I care about the two. Maybe we stash the pummel. If I'm playing the pummel, I can pay one. I haven't done the one from Arsenal, though. But it still shouldn't be enough damage. And it still floats one if it's tripwire. So I think that's fine. Hey, Joshua. So we just want to keep two. Right? And just set up. I don't need the promising. Let's just get to 3 again and then send a dominated attack. Yeah, it's definitely right to take all 6 of these. Or to take 6 copies of these, I should say. They definitely are really coming in handy. Yeah, I've been very, very much enjoying Valda. I'll play it all the way up until Super Slam, I think. That. And technically I can heave, depending on how they react. I think that's fine. The nice thing against Riptide is because it's just damage. We can wait for them to play their traps before we react. So they just take New Horizon for the block, which is interesting. 5 here. Bellsword's still in the graveyard. Actually, God, if my brain worked, I would be able to figure out what they could have taken. But I think we still play aggressively, right? We just do the 5, block out, hold the pummel. Yeah, you know, I'll just do the 5. I don't have to go crazy. I will say, this is like the worst I've seen on Reddit, where it's just, what do we do? What card replaces this? And it's a bit sad. Like, it's nice when it's a form of thought and discussion, but it is just people trying to, you know... I get that there's, you know, events coming up, so they need the replacement now and now. Now and then. What am I trying to say? Anyway, let's finish the game first, and then we'll talk about the bans. I mean, they have no card in Arsenal, so... Die. Good game. They're just trying to be very disruptive. Riptide. Interesting. Yeah, it's so weird how people are so invested in gravy. I mean, I've briefly looked at it, and the sentiments that Brian expresses are kind of weird. Not from what he's saying, but community wise. Like it's just Aurora again, except well, no, it's exactly Aurora again, which makes me think they're just overcorrecting. Anyway, speaking of which, what we might as well look at. When deck linchpin isn't there anymore, it's using gravy. Actually, gotta be finding out here. If you have time spent, fine. You can still do super kiss of death things. Yeah, I don't necessarily think Ban Savacany was the problem. Weirdly, I would have liked to see Flick Knives go for Assassin specifically, which again, their continued we don't want to ban hero specific things, class specific things is I don't like it. But obviously they couldn't get rid of Flick since it's a reprint in Super Slam. But yeah, so Bonds of Agony, Tipples, minus the blue, so it's still more critical one, I suppose. Plume of Outgrowth, Talk a Big Game is actually a very interesting one, because I was very tempted to stick this in Valda instead of Prismatic Leyline, but I just couldn't get the Dominate to stick well enough for me to go, this is, at least 2 might, right? So Prismatic just ended up being better. But I can sort of understand where they're coming from for KO and Lyeth, right? Because I think they both would be problematic with Talk a Big Game. Then Germinate unbanned, which is nice. So we can skip over the principles, I think. If Kiss goes, I'd be fine with that. I can still do the same shit, like bites and hurls. The main issue with is Kiss is not disruptive, right? It's just a whole crack ton of damage. So the rationale is this is less decision making from your opponent, right? Because basically you get the damage, you take their hand one way or the other, and then their next turn is basically very little or a pass back. It's a shame that we wouldn't be able to, play around with Talk a Big Game because they've expressed that before, where they don't necessarily want to preemptively ban stuff. So it does show that maybe their testing is getting better, which is cool. But I guess we'll start from the top, right? We'll just go from Bonds. So Bonds was intended to reward Assassin taking on a somewhat challenging quest. This is the big issue, though, because it's not really a challenging quest when you have 3 attack reacts on board, which is why I think the equipment is kind of the issue instead, right? Whereas if you have to get all the pieces to line up, or you have to second cycle to line them up, then it's a lot better. But it's the issue of again, Flick Knives being a repeatable, right, attack reaction on board. So it's almost endless fuel. Granted, in most cases, it's 2 and then you have to find X card in your deck, but still. Problem is it's not a challenging quest, right? And in turn give the assassin's opponent a difficult defending decision. Both these propositions have begun to break down assassin's card pool as expanded. Was always an issue, wasn't it, more or less? Right? It knew it was a problem as well. But yeah, so it's not a challenging quest, and it's not really a difficult defending decision. I think because of Arachne slipped and Marionette, right? Because of the go again, is the big issue there. Because again, it's not a decision. It's basically it's the warrior crux, right? But warrior aren't this level of disgustingness. So if you give a warrior your hand on the first attack, sure, they'll just move to reacting on the second one. Use whatever go again they need, and then pump the other weapon bigger, right? But this is damage and disruption, which is the problem. The defending decision around Bonds of Agony, when slipped through the cracks, starts the turn with its full grip of cards is seemingly impossible, right? Because it already has to go again. There's no counterplay, there's no outs, over defend, and they just move to the next chain link. Right, under defend, you get the 12 damage, and you most likely lose the rest of your hand anyway. Then take up the mantle being an extra 3 copies, essentially, of Bonds, which is where I think Flick can take up the mantle, because Bonds does seem like a crucial piece. And he talks about if so bad on Gravy, they'll ban Swell and unban Tibble. Yeah, it should have. It feels like it should have just been Swell first. I think the actual Gravy players will just get good or learn to deal with the free 15 damage that was in their deck. We'll get to Gravy. I don't want to. I want to maul on it. Maul. Oh god. Yeah. I want to think on it. But we'll get to that. Take the mental decision is one theoretically face the vast majority of turns. Pair that with Slippy win rates that just sits below the problematic threshold. Becomes clear, it's time to scale down Assassin power level. Again, for me, the big issue with Assassin is they're just the most well-rounded class so far, right? Their level of miss when it comes to being printed new cards is a lot lower than other heroes slash classes because they're less segmented, I guess is the way to put it. As is true, every banned card on this list, the goal is not to destroy Slippy's win rates, but the time has come to take steps to mitigate, and the damned if you do, damned if you don't play experience. It's fair, something had to give, right? Alright, Gravy. Big one. Well, I should say Golden Tipple. So I'm actually we're gonna start down here, because I really, really hate this sentiment. The fact that, they can outline the rationale and then still, what is it now, quadrupling down on non-specific bans is an issue. They took Warrior Identity is my issue. Yeah, I think one react was fine. It's the whole basically doing the warrior thing, and the fact that it's on your attacks rather than your weapons, and your attacks are inherently disruptive. Like it's they should be significantly less statted is the problem. Like, so most cases it should be like a +1 in disruption, right? Because it should still be hitting the breakpoint, but it's not. It's a +3 or -3, which is the big issue. And then you get your breakpoint through Marionette ability or some other mechanic, right? It does feel like the reacts for the level we've got into now, in terms of how many are being played, is the problem. They should have all been reined in. Which is weird, because thinking about it, Warriors are a lot more reined in anyway. And then they're still less disruptive. They just bounced around the go again, I guess. But, okay, so a word to the Marlin enjoys out there. A Golden Tipple ban surely impacts Marlin as well, but she is a deck that needs help regardless of the existence of Golden Tipple. The card being present in the card pool would only restrict her ability to build out her core identity, then she shouldn't be Pirate, right? Over time, as it's nearly impossible to make other good gold generation cards in the Pirate class, with Gravy Bones already having access to Golden Tipple. And no, hero-specific bans cannot be the answer. Yes, they can. While bookkeeping around the first few such bans would be fine, the format would eventually become an impossible to remember web of ban exceptions. Not really, right? Because this mentality is all, what is it, 30 heroes get played? Which is absolutely absurd and wrong, right? What is there? There's 34, so there'll be 38 come Super Slam. But obviously they don't see play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So less than half actually see play. Second, the ban list for Fab is not extensive. So that's also, to me, not really problematic. Third, they're going with the online deck submission, right? So yes, you have that issue of, people could run different cards in their deck, so you need you still need the judge checks anyway, but that would happen regardless, right? So I don't necessarily think it would be a problem. What to me the problem is this continued thought of, well, Gravy's a problem, so he needs to go down a step, so Marlin needs to go down a step, but don't worry, we'll get Marlin back up, but she's already that step behind, right? Look, if you knew you aren't going to know the ban list, yeah, that too, right? The points of them making, these crossover classes is so that they can have that underlying mechanic, which in this case is Golden Tipple. It's fine that they're acknowledging that it's bad for Gravy, or I should say, a little too good for Gravy, but in the same vein to acknowledge it's something that is run in Marlin, but that's fine because Marlin's crap anyway, to me is not a good answer, right? Marlin will have her kit built up over time, with small spawn Super Slam and more significant support arriving in the set that follows. That's kind of curious, right? Remember, this is a hero whose ability read so powerfully that everyone convinced themselves included. Three of a kind would be banned prior to release. There was lane potential in Marlon's kit. Enjoy the ride that so many other heroes before have taken, and trust that someday she'll find her place even in the face of this setback. And to me, it is a significantly bigger setback as well, right? Because Marlon's gold generation is shit, and she is so much more dependent on the gold generation than Gravy. And the fact that, you take your shitty harpoons and you could use them for your golden tipples while also getting your gold back is really, really good, right? This is your gold generation. This is a reload card for Marlon. It is really significant to Marlon, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't like this mentality in the least. It's just every new set of heroes, every new set of mechanics, just to me exemplifies that they do need the specific bans, because whatever the crossover is, you have completely different playstyles, deck kits, whatever, however you want to phrase it, for the heroes, right? So it's like the high octane. Yes, it needs to go, but it didn't need to go in the shitty mechs, where it was relevant. Lone Shark being playable. Eh. It seems like it'll be the tester filler, but I don't think it'll settle on Lone Shark. It just doesn't do enough. The idea of gold to shape your deck is fine, but Tipple being cycle discard gold gen versus 2 turns of using Gravy's ability is not great. So I don't necessarily know if a Lone Shark will stick around long enough. Everyone, yeah, it seems to just be going Lone Shark. All right, in my learn into Lena's Portside change. The problem is you take both. You take Tipples and Portside. And again, it's just that extra bit of damage, which Marlon needs. Gravy doesn't. My 30 years of TCGs have struggled to find an analog for the Gravy Bones experience. I think he means more the community adoption of Gravy Bones, which is, in my opinion, it's everyone loved Magic, hated what Hasbro Wizards did, came to Fab, enjoyed the mechanics, loved the mechanics, finally got a true MTG style hero, right? As in, again, cycling, board generation, absurdness, that they latched onto it. When we're analyzing whether a deck is warping balance or performing at statistically unacceptable rates, we are driven by data. The rates tell us the deck is too strong. We have to respect the evidence. But what happens when almost everyone is positive a deck is too good, but the data tells us a completely different story? Yet Aurora. The problem, though, my 2 cents for Marlon. So yeah, overpower doesn't do enough. It leaves it open to your opponent, again, getting around the value of the go fish mechanic. So I do think she needs the chip damage, because you have to get your opponents down to the point where they have to give cards for cards like Golden Tipple for all these other cards, so that you can try and land the overpower attacks, right? And you have to, she's mid-range to fatigue-ish, right? Where you have to really work on chipping down your opponent before you can really just, I guess, clinch your teeth in and get the disruption as well, and then, take the game away. And the problem is that's way too slow for the current meta of Fab. But to me, Tipple and chip damage, I do think she kind of needs. And at least with Tipple, again, it does those extra things. I would assume who runs Riches. Don't actually know. I don't keep up with what decks actually run the Fables, because I can never be bothered using them. Well, let's Gravy Bones. A deck that is entirely pedestrian win rates that many folks believe is the best deck in the format, and perhaps one of the most powerful Flesh and Blood decks ever seen, which is crazy. But anyway, I mean, the response should be, all right, take your Gravy deck to Living Legend. And frankly, he agrees with them. And I think Go Fish is the point. I think they should be working towards playing big game trophy shot and more expensive pumps. But again, that's where you need the cycling and the fodder generation, right? Where you want to be able to put your crappy Goldfin harpoons into those cards. I would be completely fine if we just got a string of harpoons that weren't go fish, right? If they just gave up on go fish as a mechanic, and it was just damage. This is just the community mentality. I mean, you go back to Aurora, and I would assume there was people saying the same thing. Granted, it's been a few years, right? Not everyone knows Stravo's tale. Small sample size, anecdotal evidence, Gravy doesn't farm local events isn't actually cracked. I've seen pre-nerf Starvo or Bride before she was changed. Yeah. Anyway, this is the case, this is the rationale. Again, for me, it's partly they can't let Aurora happen, right? They can't let Aurora happen 2.0. And I would absolutely say that Gravy Bones is a case of adoption and popularity rather than actually being the top deck, right? Gravy Bones may be having his win rate altered by the fact that he's fiendishly difficult to play. I wouldn't say that either. He has more steps than most heroes, but that in a sense leads to his consistency, which is why, again, to some degree, he's a more consistent deck. He's not a more powerful deck. Go Fish doesn't matter at all. We just see 2 for 6 pirate card. It's safe to throw hook at. The only point, yeah. Where was I up to? But what the deck can do in the hands of a Pro Tour top 8 competitor. It's hard to argue against the fact that Necromancer is the best thing they can be doing in Flesh and Blood today. Join the Valda Club. Just pummel everyone. That's the best thing you can do today, right? In the hands of a master, bad matchups dissipate very quickly, and good matchups are over before they ever begin. So I will say, actually, as Guardian though into it, the chip damage from the tipples is kind of annoying because it's block out whatever they hook, right? Well, no, you don't really, as Valda, you don't care if they get the gold. You want them to draw. But it is basically just a game of whack-a-mole until they run out of allies. And Gravy has to set up multiple ally turns. Yeah. Yes. Which is one of the big things I've seen people struggle with when it comes to Gravy and any of the matchups, especially when against Guardian, where again I would say it's one of the easier matchups because you can consistently just whack whatever ally they pop up, right? But yeah, people not realizing how to capitalize on giving allies rather than, aiming for one a turn. Because if it's one a turn, every now and then you get the 2, doesn't matter. You really have to get the 3 ally turns off of, your Gold Gets Rum, your Mage Master Boots, what's the other one? Amulet, right? But he's also very much a case of you don't necessarily know what you're doing, right? Especially when he was new. So that also leads to it. It's like Max after the Armory deck where that was the resurgence of everyone playing. No one really knew how to handle Max, but you give it a week or two and it's fine. Even with Valda, right? I was winning a lot more games in the first couple of weeks because people just didn't know what you had to do to deal with Valda, and the same could be said for Gravy. But yeah, in certain games, being able to swap lanes, I should say, rather than getting the consistent value and stacking your turns is what you really want. Right. Thus far, so much of Gravy Bones' power has been tied up in the fact that he's access to almost an obscene amount of gold, plays solid turns with all manner of hand sizes. Those legitimately broken turns involve cracking 3 to 4 gold and shaping the hand to be your opponent's worst nightmare, which is, it's something that's really nice and fab, right? As someone who has played an obscene amount of Malady, where that is what you do, where you get all your silver, and it's about shaping your hand to be disgusting, right? Especially when we had Art of War and Tome, and it was, how do I get to the next thing to catapult me to the next step, right? It's a good part of Fab. Constructing your deck to be, consistent and something that you can cycle through and look for certain outs is great. Much better than, building around one card that you're just waiting to find one, or you're trying to tutor to, essentially, in other games, right? I feel like even as Huntsman, I feel like I understand what I need to do now with the tipple bands. Swell would be ironically, yeah. Swells would have ironically done nothing for me. So, what's the main issue with Swell? So I wouldn't call, for instance, with Swell, it being a case of I'm swapping to this ally and swinging with this ally instead, because now I have those extra resources. I would say the free gold advantage off of Swell is probably the problematic case. Right? Basically any way where they get to the free extra card. And the fact that they can consistently do that more than most other decks is, again, not to this level, in my opinion, not to the level of, again, what you could do with Art of War and Tome and everything like that. But it just puts them a little bit more consistent than other heroes, right? So again, similar to Assassin. I mean, they had the issue with Aurora, so that's where this is sort of coming from. And they had the starting point of Assassin being horrendous, which is where Gravy needed to be fully up and running, right? Well, basically, let's go for... basically lets you go wide, yeah. But it's still a matter of X things lining up, right? Yeah, that's a good point. Rather than just feeding it into tipples, you now have to... The steps are find X other way to discard, right? But again, it's sort of the question of, is it actually broken, or is it just how Gravy Bones plays, right? Gravy needs to start working harder to access his bountiful treasure, which is basically what you guys are saying. The starting point here will be Ban Tipple, both red and yellow, but that's not the end of the Gravy Bones adjustment. They have more time thanks to the new point system. Eventually, Swell in all colors may be too powerful, so that will probably go, and Tipple will ultimately come back. Open to all possibilities and have to have the time to explore this. Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I always love the detailed, thoughts that they give, even if I don't necessarily agree with everything. And then we read them all and stuff. I still, again, I mean, oh god, probably didn't see any play, did she? Yeah. And that's another sort of thing to factor. I mean, maybe the other trick is the ban list should be more impactful for proper events, right? Hmm. And the fact that it guarantees hook. Maybe if they gave him less starting life. Ultimately, we'll see. He's popular. He needed to be taken down a peg. This is what we got. They could, or they could print, something similar, like just an arrow version. What? Oh god, I don't remember what the new arrow was. It was like Mage Hunter arrow, which has one of the instant discard effects. And we'll see it in a week's time or so. They are definitely, ramping up the instant discard this. Although the curiosity of the arrow from the spoilers that aren't actually out yet was that you can only activate this while it's face up in your arsenal. And it was instant get rid of it. We have not. We are up to the plume. The bonds and golden tipple. The other actually thing while we're here at bonds, reduce the copies, right? Make it a one-off. Still be disgusting, but it slows down finding it for. Well, I suppose at that point it's just a crapshoot. Do I find it quick enough to put it in my graveyard to then turn on take up the mantle? Never mind. All right, plume. So I've read this, and I do like this. This is a good mentality. OTK has a place, but consistency ultimately is what Fab does well, right? So, Plume of Evergrowth. From her creation, Verdance has always been envisioned as a battle mage, weaving arcane physical attacks in equal measure, or swapping between the two depending on the matchup. In testing, though, it was clear that the numbers of such strategy didn't work. Pack enough arcane barrier and battle mage Verdance simply could not deal enough damage over the course of a game to close out. So that's where things like Light Up the Leaves and Burn Bear come in, right? As ways to either chip or those big finishes where you're less reliant on rampant growth. So with Plume gone, rampant growth was born a combo kill. That's exactly what Verdance needed to find windows to win. More like just it's how to phrase it? Your opponent has X less life, right? Starting life. While Decompose was still challenging and the raw damage was simply not there, but with the addition of Burn Bear and now especially Line Up the Leaves, the math has changed. It is becoming easier for Verdance to decompose her chunk arcane damage is getting larger, and her tools will continue to evolve and improve as the time goes on. This means it's time to take some points away from Verdance's endgame, while pure rampant growth / life kills purposely take a hit with the banning. What word have I missed? While pure rampant growth / life kills will purposely take a hit with the banning of Plume of Evergrowth, the addition of Light Up the Leaves is the thing that really mandates this ban. Returning a 6 damage burn spell with Plume of Evergrowth left Stormstriders feeling nearly arbitrary in the game. By allocating power into the aspects of Verdance's gameplay, we hope that we make the experience playing against her more enjoyable and potentially make her. See, this is another case where Stormstriders would potentially be the thing I'd rather see go, right? Because then it's less of an issue of that 2-turn stack out where you don't have your hand to respond, right? We're hoping to make the experience of playing against her more enjoyable and potentially make her matchup spread slightly less polarized. Can I say that word? Polarized. There we go. That presently is. So, Plume really just say opponent X life win. Kinda. In my mind. But yeah, so first and foremost, for Jarl, right? Because it was taken in Jarl. But that's the thing. I don't mean ban it overall. I mean just ban it in her. Celio doesn't really like it anyway. But it being, again, something that you can use in this scenario with, again, the obscene amount of amping, right? Where you can either, have that gross turn with it or without it, and then follow it up with a second turn is sort of the issue. Granted, this where Plume, works out a little bit better because you can't find the specific piece, right? To, again, consistently have that 2-turn kill, right? I want Kano Gaunts, please keep the boots. Kano do your job and win a big event. Oh, he's on his multiplier. When was the last time we got a Soul Wizard card? It was Burn Bear, right? The question here, though, interestingly, so they have this opening statement where, again, you have that, you go back and forth between plowing under fruits rather than its discard, attacking with it, presenting, significant enough amounts of damage that you're taking your opponent's hand. In that scenario, I'd like more, she can play on her turn and take advantage of your hand being emptier, just not to this extent necessarily. As talking about that, we got to talk about Plume / Oaken Old is growth. Yes. But is it this levels of growth, right? Because again, if your game plan is fatiguing, having that consistently is somewhat of an issue, right? Being able to specifically find the dual card to use, right? But is it something you could play around? No, I suppose once you run out of equipment. He's not represented enough yet, I suppose, in his fatigue list. But still, I do like this idea that it's going to be more about chipping down your opponents, and then even in that end stage, because the idea here with Burn Bear and Light Up the Leaves is it's 6, so even if you'd have to have Skull Cap and Full, right? Null Rune, which you probably wouldn't have because you need some of those staple pieces. So most likely, Veridance is always getting that chip damage across. It incentivizes, even to some extent, I guess, Waning Moon a little bit more because you're less reliant on, again, that big amp burst of rampant, Aether Tide. Was it Surgeon Aether Tide? Surgeon Aether Tide, and then your big spell, right? But I do like OTK. I wish there's more ways to deal with it. Obviously, obviously the hunted arcane compliance, as beautiful it was not it, right? I think that should have been retooled. How was this? Arcane compliance, an instant until effects can't, so you can still play it. If this was on a defense reaction, would that have made it workable enough? Because then you'd have the use case for your other matches, right? If this was, even if it was a shitty defense reaction and this was an instant discard mechanic, would that be enough? Probably not. I guess in that case, if it wasn't Bloom. But Bloom being gone, overall, makes way for them to print more of these big cards, right? And it's not just line up the leaves and they can start, working on more just big spells in general. I think it sort of speaks to they took amping a little bit too far, right? In what she has access to with the life gain shenanigans, everything. I don't know if that necessarily means there should have been a cap on the rampant growth, or to some extent, we need those other Arcanite pieces, right? Where we get our arms and we get our legs. Yeah, print Arcanite boots that literally save Blade Break 1 and AB2. It does feel like classes are getting to the point of definitely needing AB2 a bit more consistently. It depends when we circle back around to a properly arcane-driven set again, right? But that would be the hope. So overall, Plume of Evergrowth is good. It's how do I want to phrase this? It's just another one of those cards where it's something that has to go away in order to then be able to print X other things, right? We lose one card, and then LSS can give us, 3 different pseudo replacements that allow us to take deck construction and theory crafting and thinking about how exactly we want to play this hero in a new direction, which I generally really like, right? So I'm happy to see cards like this go. Maybe maybe cycle back around in some other fashion, even if it means tweaking its cost. It's when you can use it, how you can use it and activate it. Like, so for instance, would it be workable if it was you can activate this when you have one card in your hand? So it's definitely a 1-for-1, right? Because then you wouldn't be able to fetch anything super big. This does force Burdens players to shell out $100 for a head now, which I don't wish for any player, even if I don't like the hero. Waiting on KO to allow so adult Blaze Armory deck can be released. If we get Blaze, then there's not really any incentive for Storm Traders, right? Storm Traders are basically just a Kano thing, and then in anyone else, it sort of takes away from their design. Because again, I do think the most problematic problematic issue here is not necessarily the combo, right, or the OTK, because it still takes time to set up. You still have to find all your pieces. I mean, it could have been hampered by, for instance, making ramp growth a 2-0, making it a bit harder to line up. But again, the Storm Striders, right? It's just that not being able to respond feels sort of bad, right? Even if that means, we get more dual AB spell void pieces like Assassin. Maybe that would be a work as well. But God, how much damage is it? Rampant is wrong. So it's 2 pots, 2 to 3 pots. We'll go with 2. So it's 4 life of that, 6. So it'd be amp 12 into Aether Tide. So this would be coming for 13. Comfortably, I'd say 5. So it'd still be a 7. right? And I guess it's that level of extra damage. Maybe in that scenario, Surge and Aether Tide's the issue. More so. Being able to amp to that extent. Right? Taking away the doubling effects. Similar to, Wildfire, Flare. Right? The problem is, there's so many cards like Klloo, where my thought is, God, if only this said you could search for anything but this card, right? Because it's built around the cost. So in, for instance, Yao, it is a very costly turn to set up. But in Verdance, it's a little bit easier. Isn't the meta too fast for Florian to be comfortable with an ODK plan? That's the feeling I sort of have with Germinate. Because again, Decompose is not necessarily as great as it needs to be. Light Believes will definitely help. And that's another rationale, right, for Plume to go, because Verdance will speed up, right? Because you will have those fringe games where your opponent gets possibly 3 cards into their graveyard turn 1, and that's just absolutely disgusting, right? So it's to me another case of this is the easiest thing to give away, but there would have been workable ways if we had a really extensive ban list, which I'm not saying is the best thing. It's probably definitely not the best thing. We'll come back to talk big game because this is a fun card that I hate to see go, but truly understandable. Alright, so for Germinate, emblematic of our new approach to ban restricted management, we tend to return Germinate to Florian's card pool. Still believe Germinate and Everbloom/Life might give Florian one of the best end games in all of Flesh and Blood, but the Gravy Bones catching nerfs, secondary predator for heroes looking to go extra deep into second and third cycles should prove to be a healthy thing for the metagame. That's a very fun way to phrase it. We're unleashing the beast just so that you can't fatigue. We never want to see Florian removed from competitive viability, and it's clear that the current metagame already presents challenges for them. We're willing to return some support his way with the acknowledgement that Florian's pre-high seas dominated, led by a bit of an overreaction. Dominance led us to a bit of an overreaction. So yeah, Germinate is a highly impactful card, but again, similar to Plume of Evergrowth, it's that use case where you could have really interesting ways to utilize it. And funny enough, God, why did I close Fabry? This is also a big issue I have. Right? All zero equipment should be made to be numberless. I believe, wasn't it in Crew where they said it was? Where if it had 0, it counted as nothing. But then we got it corrected. So for instance, Headbutt. Headbutt would be a great counter, or more cards like Headbutt that target those specific filler pieces. But they don't exist because they all have 0, right? So just printing more cards like that can enable you to disrupt your opponent's linchpin equipment pieces would be really nice. But yeah, again, Germinates and Plume, they could have, their average to slightly better than average if you play them when you find them, right? But it's the idea of saving them for those critical moments where they become unstoppable, right? So yeah, it's a very fun card. I'm glad to see it back. But yeah, I do think he's probably a bit too slow. Which I guess is fine because, you have Gal, who probably kind of takes a hit because, again, Oganol, the disruption was really good. What other fatigue decks are there? What other control decks at the moment? Nothing's really come to mind other than Jarl. But yeah, so it's nice to have that triangle, right? Where you have aggro, mid-range, crappy fatigue, and then OTK, right? The fatigue suffers to OTK because you give them enough time to set up. Fatigue crushes aggro. Aggro crushes OTK. Mid-range fits in there somehow. I mean, Guardian have the one attack that kills 0 block armor. They have quite a few, right? No, Mangle's counters. There is a decent chunk of equipment destruction. The problem is separating it, right? Because you can't just devalue block. Block is important. Block is there for a reason. It's on equipment for a reason. But you do have a number of these really linchpin pieces, like Mage Master Boots, for instance, or Plume of Evergrowth, that would be nice to be destroyable, right? To some extent. Should probably type in destroy. So a clear separation of things that target defending equipment, and then things that target those setup-y pieces would be nice, right? What do we have? Has to be defending. So for instance, Banner Pop has to have no defense value, right? That means blank. So Compass is the main thing. Headbutt's cool, because that would work against Klloo, right? So that's nice. What else? This does work against all those equipment-y pieces, but the opponent has a chance to respond. The other problem, though, as well with Plume is it's an instant, so if there is any risk of it being destroyed, your opponent is just incentivized to use it, right? Put a negative counter on it, and then if it has 0. So yeah. But I would like to see more of the separation. But for me, the line is stuff that has 0 should be down here with nothing, and then stuff that, you know, is designed for blocking 1 to 2, right? Should have its own set of destruction effects. So then you have disruption, that's probably a bit more preventable, like expose the elements, and then you have destruction that's a bit less preventable. And the idea there is, again, rely on this slowly chip down the armor piece until it's destroyed. Alright, talk a big game. At this juncture, we've taken on the feedback that if development believes there is a dangerous deck with the potential to operate outside of acceptable parameters, our players prefer we address that deck in advance of its release. Is that true? Maybe I like seeing the gross stuff, right? Because their previous sentiment was, we'll let the deck be showcased, and then once the community has found what the really problematic thing, then we'll get rid of it. Sentiment broadly seemed to feel that we waited too long to ban Zephyr Needle, even though a sanctioned class constructed game was never played with Needle Ira. Here we're trying to act with ample notice, I guess. I guess that's the point. Real talk, give Warriors some serious equipment destroying cards. Yeah. What's their main interaction? They have any main interaction with equipment? Bolton's reacting to, like, parrying. Thematically is what my mind's going through. Even if it was just, you know, like Reprise. But if your opponent's blocked with equipment. That would be a cool dynamic, right? So on the one hand, you have Reprise if they block from hand, and you have, I can't think of a keyword. Gap Finder? That sounds weird. Other Reprise. For if they block with equipment, right? Let me shatter any equipment, not just blocking. That too. Because at least Mechanologist has the force your opponent to block with X, and then the destruction effect. Make a reason to play Warrior for Assassin. It should just be damage. Warrior should just have the more disgusting damage output, which you have with Dawnblade, kinda, and followed by Fang once he's up and running, but he has to get up and running, and Bolton. Yeah, Fang does numbers, but it's the lag to get to those numbers that's the issue. Shatter, and also if you're on Dismount Axe, you can provoke to break temper stuff. Yeah. Provoke is a great card. I think, I can't remember who, but just more weapon style cards, similar to Kiss of Death. Like, a Hidden Blade for Assassin, yeah, it makes sense thematically, but, you know, a Master of Arms for Warrior would be cooler. I mean, there's also, again, going back to the leak for Super Slam, what excites me most, if you've really dug through the mechanics, is they are trying a bunch of new stuff again. Whenever they try a bunch of new stuff is what I really enjoy, because Flesh and Blood, is trying to, in a sense, designate roles, and it has a little bit of difficulty branching out to new mechanics or new ways to approach certain things. But again, for instance, there's a Ranger card that has the instant discard mechanic if it's in your arsenal face up. That's beautiful to see, because that's something Ranger wants, is unique to them, even if it does have that crossover to, again, the general mechanic of that instant discard. So having more specialized mechanics for X class, even if it's similar to something else, would be really nice, right? And a warrior one could be as simple as fetch an attack reaction. Something, easy for them to capitalize on. I want a Draconic Dagger attack. Yeah, I mean, that would be great for Cinder as well, right? The problem with me is it just does feel like they don't want classes to have that level of overlap, even if it is, again, mechanically slightly different, right? But for Talk a Big Game, so with the release of Super Slam, Talk a Big Game would allow a couple loquacious heroes to run their mouth off a bit too much. Again, the main crux here for me would be Eliath. Good. And KO. Seem like the two that will be amply taking great use of, covering it up, of Talk a Big Game. Right? And if for those not familiar with Talk a Big Game, choose the number. The next time you would deal that much or more damage to a hero this turn, create that many white tokens, which is beautiful. Again, for me, I was semi-tempted to try it in Valda. The idea being then you dominate, a 4 or a 3 even, and you get that value out of Talk of a Game, because it being a blue for a +3 on your next turn is pretty nice, right? Anything greater than that is even better. In fact, I think, rationally, if it was a 0+2, that's still above rate, right? Or at least equal to rate, because instead of on your turn, you're getting it on your next turn. You can also do stuff with the token generation, which would seemingly nice, right? With Overcrowded, it'd be kind of cool. But yeah, the problem is it being consistently a high blue 3-block generating card would make it significantly above rank, right? So with Goliath, you have the disgusting, we're on the wrong one, disgusting number of cards, right, for you to fuel whatever you're doing. The ways to turn off your ability as well. So yeah, it does seem like he'd be able to stack might over and over again and get to a point of very, very obscene things. And then for KO, right? Converting something to a 6 is already kind of nice, right? That's basically a small attack reaction in the palm of your hands to some degree anyway. But it does feel like he'd be the other one that'd be able to capitalize. What was the card? But yeah, just in general, the other forms of might generation they have, right? Bully tactics, there we go. So yeah, pay up to 3, intimidate that many times. That alone with Talk a Big Game, right? That's a we'll go, it doesn't matter who, right? So it'd be a 3 plus blue plus Talk a Big Game, right? So that'd be 3 cards to allow your opponent to most likely block with 1 plus maybe the arsenal and equipment. And depending on how they handle KO, you have that maybe 1 extra card defeat in his ability to put this to a 6, right? As Light, you'd have, the possibility to, I don't know, pummel it, for instance. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Rouse. That one I didn't think of. Wow, 3 for 13. God. And it has go again. Yeah, that would be an absolutely absurd one. And again, you could You could possibly do it with bully tactics, right? Bully tactics is just such an absurd one. It's weird to me that this does not have a cost to itself. Granted, yeah, you need to go again, but it's a zero cost. You could theoretically snap this, right? I mean, that's a pretty disgusting turn. If you go snap off of bully tactics with a blue, right? So that's 2 cards there, leaving you with 2 cards to do something else. Granted, 4 for a +6. I mean, that's really good value though. And we haven't seen, the rest of their packages to really do obscene things with this. What's his wording? Base cards you control. You're revealing them, so they're not hard, right? So even Rouse and Life is pretty nice. 7 for 13 with a vigor. But yeah, this is absurd to me. Especially in Brute, right? Because again, access to the agility tokens. Like, this is just such a crazy setup. Anything else that goes obscene with it? What was it? If you would create. I don't remember if this was just if you bet. It's gonna be hard to find. Wow. We can check out the new fancy rules and policies. Which, if you've never looked at this, it's fantastic. Yeah. This used to be just a big sheet, right? A booklet, but now it's really nice. We can try control or reveal. A B C D. I guess we'll do reveal. I feel like the controller affects the same. Nope. The controller of a card is what we want. If the player plays a card, effect applies, increases. Not quite. This is sort of right. Although it's still kind of easier to control effort. Reveal is a discrete and continuous effect. Reveal private objects make it public, making the object public. Blah blah blah. Specified. Does not change its position. Fails. Doesn't really help. Find this. Not give. I've started way too low. Ally. Offhand. Go again. Do all the keywords. I guess we go with objects. Object properties. All game concepts, actually. Can't just have a controller unless it's in the arena or the stack. Done. Right? So when you reveal a card, it's not a control object. So rails should work. But don't take my word for it. Wait for the release. But because you're revealing, right? they're not halved. That's my understanding of reading this. So, yeah, rounds in life is disgusting. Technically, yeah, Clash as well. Has to be on the stack or in the arena. To have a controller. I guess that's the other wording we should check. Controller. Let's see. Well, I mean, yeah, again, this statement is pretty much it. Object does not have a controller. I suppose, is it not an object? Is it a card? Card does not have a controller unless it's... No, never mind. There you go. Both. Right? Card or object does not have a controller unless it's in the arena or on the stack. But, technically, weirdly, wouldn't that make... if the card has a clash effect, because then it goes onto the stack, so then you become its controller, so then it gets halved by life. But would that only matter for its effect, not the actual clash? Skull cap. So I always got to remember it's half rounded up because rounded down would be crap. Skull cap. So blocks for if you block with it twice. So blocks for 1 and then gets +1 blocks for 1. And then this is a has. So it still gets halved the second time as well. No, it's still base. So it would block for a 1 or a 1 and a 1. The base of cards you control. That's what I have to remember. I love complicated stuff like this, but boy, does it do my head in. Anyway, what we're up to. Right, talk a big game. So yeah, we've seen things to come, but gone, no more fun. Oh well. They abandoned Blitz too. Because actually, this in Valda Blitz, was then worthwhile, right? Because you just Valda Blitz, which I'm hoping works out as well as it does in my head, is just turn 1, Crater Hoof, turn 2, Seismic Surge gets you another dominate, turn 3 gets you another dominate, and you just beat your opponent down. So yeah, talk about game banned in both. The problem is, my mind just summarizes things. So in my head, his ability is just cards are halved, cards are halved, cards are halved, not base and controlled. And then Deadwood Dirge is unrestricted. I also like that they're linked now. I don't think they were previously. So yeah. Kane just, again, OTKing as well. Pretty crazy. So overall, I mean, they're fair, decent bans. If you give it enough thought, of course, you can come up with XYZ that could have been banned differently. But something I have to give for Assassin, so Bonds it is, right? Main issue being 6 copies in total, and the fact that both Arachnes have access to go again is a problem, right? The Tipples is just chip damage while doing gravy things, essentially. That was the problem. Swell is sort of the inverse, where it's... I guess you can also count as chip damage. It's less chip damage, right? I'm trying to think. Doesn't get you the free card, so it doesn't cycle. But the resources could be used. Yeah, no, Tipple's definitely more of the linchpin than Swell. I'm just making sure cards like Shred, how does it interact with Ram's Head? Yes. It helps to read things, right? And then for Plume, it's about reducing reducing OTK in favor of new big. I'm just going to call them spells because that's what they are, right? Spells that have good functional effects. I would always count Tipple as chip, because unless they hook, you don't really care. And they're not necessarily always going for the big LA turns, right? Talk a Big Game is a ban on Lyeth and KO Fun, but deservingly so because it just a ton of value. And then Germinate back means that Florian can feast on Fatigue. But ultimately, will probably just be too slow. For the current meta. Yeah. Right. That's the easy conclusions. Question though. Is this ultimately necessary? Because I feel like the spread of points isn't that rough. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I'm on class constructed, right? Like, this is not the most obscene level of points we've seen, and you still have a good level of alternative heroes. And I would attribute this to, again, not being necessarily because he's top deck, but because he's popular deck, right? And I don't necessarily think it will curb people playing him either. Getting there. I also got to remember this is with the multiplier. They should have that. They should have another column, right, that tells us the points. Prism with the multiplier yet? Where's the 1 to 2 years? Dust till Dawn. 2 years. No, not yet. Yeah, so it's not obscene. It's not an obscene amount to see him get in his first appearance. Granted, it would be 320. Maybe 320 is obscene, is it? Yeah, the multiplier is doing my head in too. I still think it's a case of popularity, not deservedly, unfortunately. The other issue here is none of this really changes, so to speak, right? He might just get slightly less, but I would assume both him, Slippy are still being played because you still have those good alternatives. You just don't have the, I guess, the free damage is the case here across the board, right? That's the root of all of this, except for the Germinate. Hmm. But again, the same thing with Aurora, because they said the same thing. Looking through it all, it's just this was a widely popular deck that also performed well. Aurora did perform a bit too well. The question though is, does any of this really change either with Super Slam? Because so far, it's all fun and cool stuff, but nothing really upsets the balance, I think, in terms of what we've seen from Super Slam. And I don't necessarily think maybe Lyeth has potential, but the other three, to me so far, are just fun, flavorful heroes. I don't think there's enough for Brute either to be obscene. Unless all the reviled stuff is the Intimidate. Is Intimidate shenanigans. It also means no one really LLs this season, right? The one thing that might upset is Brute potentially getting popular. The weird thing is, I'd say Brute's always kind of been popular. It's just not great because of again, the inconsistencies, right? Because Fab more than any other game is just how consistent can you get the deck without being, ass pull. I'm going to tutor for this, find this, and go. Well, it plays into they think LL too early. They should have stepped in, so they're stepping. Yeah. Yeah, it's good that they're keeping their word. But ultimately, that's also the rationale for the points, the multiplier. Which maybe it's a case of they didn't want him taking the percentage of the points that he has been taking. But again, I don't necessarily think this will curb that. I think we should be afraid of KO, so possibly a real deck. Really? The issue for me is what does KO have really going on outside of other KO, right? You get Vigor whenever you booed, I suppose. But unlike Lyeth, right? Or is it Tough Nut? He doesn't have a way to consistently get that unless we get a whole bunch of the boo cards. To me, he works as long as the Reviled package is crazy. And so far, it seems like it's more tuned to Lyeth. And you don't necessarily want to be paying for his ability each turn just to get these to a decent stat line. I assume by OG KO you mean it's heavy hitters KO, right? Or you mean for Blitz? If they are preemptively banning a Reviled Gid card, I think at least one of them is going to be strong out of the game. Bully Tactic is the big one for me, at least. Fair enough. I will secretly study them all behind the scenes, but I will patiently wait till each of the content creators gets their time to shine. Yeah, heavy KO. It's nice that we haven't seen the only real set cards that we've seen are the Guardian stuff, right? With the suspense counters. Mocking Blow. When it stacks your if they have more life than you, the crowd boos you. If you're being booed, this gets +4. I mean, that is nice. A 0. Well, I need to stop saying a 0 because you have to pay for the ability. A 3 for 10 is kind of cool. Plus the vigor for your next turn. I mean, the main thing for me with all of these is just the fact that they're low cost, so you can do shenanigans with them. And it's the fact that you might have it might be smaller than the usual wide, but it looks like it will probably present more damage. What's his charm? Steal confidence or toughness, boos you. If you control an attack with 6 or more, deal 2 damage. And that is chip damage is kind of cool as well. Well, Snap seems fun, just baseline. KO could potentially just be still, big brute into something like this. Although then you're sort of worrying about the life aspect. But the fact that you have those 5-card hands and you can feed into these, I do think opens up some of the other go again that we've been getting. Like, I still love flying high as a card. Yeah. There's not gives go again. Just next attack, I guess, is what we're looking for. I think Lithe isn't getting go again. I think it's just going to get some jank, ask instant for damage. Well, I feel like the two branching paths for Lithe is either definitely fatigue, is utilizing your big hand size, and taking anything that, gets remotely buffed. I mean, like, Staunches are sort of better, slash okay, because you're feeding into them for free, essentially. And they're getting their plus. Looks like I have to roll matchup with you again after Super Slam. The new Brute Lego arms that were leaked are also KO coded. God, my brain is not great sometimes. I can't remember. Was it if you pitch tap something, right, as a +1? Dead fast. Well, what would Staunch be? So Staunch would be 2 cards to block 7, which means it's equivalent to its normal self, right? So it's not good, but it's still the same, more or less. Steadfast. Oh yes, the prevent effects, right? And the fact that you're just feeding your extra card into this. So far, the only thing that's coming to my mind for go again would be snaps, flying high. You'd probably lead the charges, maybe. Captain's call works as well. I mean, I'd be up for, trying to run him as jankly as possible wide. And you're just treating the 5th card in your hand as an action point generation. Where do you go? Instant boost you defending action cards. Defending action cards. There's also that aspect of his ability. So my mind reading this, right? The idea then is you're still attacking like normal, and then hoping to pitch a blue into this, then feed that one resource into something. Probably Ram, right? That would be the easiest use case of his ability. And then Ram is fine because it doesn't get halved because its base is 0 anyway. Which doesn't matter because it's still the same block. You get the might, and then you go about your business like normal. So you're basically getting a +1 to your blocks, kinda. Ram's block, a might token for free-esque. That would be the simplest way to use this ability, right? This Rampart of Ram's Edge is what I mean, right? And you're just feeding a blue into that. Ram 100% of the time Oasis Respite in it. And you're basically returning all your actions to normal block. I mean, that's not bad. Just getting the free +1. And then you have the turns to catapult you when you find his turn off. His ability his super rare. His charm. Not to mention like overcrowded as well. So I think they all have easy ways to get it to 2. To get it to a 4 block, right? Cheat the Lion's Charm. Losers and can't gain abilities this action phase unless they discard a card. The idea there is you could block with it, use this, turn off, and still get the rampart and that, right? And the token. Are there any attack action cards that block with +2 for resource cost? What are they called? Not rally. Why do I feel like there is one that pitches? What would it be? When this defends. Great toughness. Ground control. Nope. Mm-hmm. Who was from the Hunted? Brothers in Arms. We got there. There we go. West fans, you may pay 1 and it's +2. So with Lithe, it would still be only a 3. Don't really get value out of that, I suppose. But still, just as a way to feed that extra resource into something, it's still kind of nice enough. Right, yes, 4 because of hero ability. Never mind. So it is actually solid value. And the nice thing is you can obviously take it in blue. Since its defense value isn't wrong. So it's nice seeing some of the lesser cards now have weird alternative use because of scenarios like this. It's fair, is what we'd go with. It's still just having a 4 on demand block. Not bad. Problem is we're in such a reactive state of Flesh and Blood. It's not super great. But you still get the might out of it as well, and the might is definitely going to be a big aspect. Anything else? Asking your own greatness when the stacks may power up to that, create the magic might. Affinities. Gains +1, hits create confidence, and a might token. You want to run Clash of Might, Thunk Combo, and Lithe to make Hammer. I mean, the might is actually, yeah, for all the, like, the Thunk Concuss. There are a third set of them? They're kind of cool. I mean, I would still just ultimately treat his ability as this plus Ram's Head. The easiest way to think about it. The question is, what else can you do with the might token? Because Concuss and Thump, and Thunk. So it'd be a 3 for 4. Not great. Thunk. Also not great. A 4 for 4. The clashing stuff seems good. Clash seems like the correct path. I mean, if there's enough way to get your surges, then, you know, the concuss and thump and the discard stuff definitely seems nice. The problem is, it does seem like they are very dependent on juggling life to rely on these types of effects. But, you know, stat line wise, for instance, you can take the yellow as consistent value, right? Because this would go down to a 1, the yellow would go down to a 2, and the red would go down to a 2. So you can sort of, in line with his ability, take that one step above pitch values. Ultimately, I think it still just depends on what else we see. Because we should get a good cohort of, you know, obviously reviled and revered cards, but some Guardian, some reviled Guardian. We haven't seen like the bread and butter of the set. We're just seeing all the dessert pieces. Don't knock it till you tried it, is what we'll go with. I mean, that's always the fun of a new set for me, is you've got the main thought, which seems like the best thing to do. It's generally always going to be that's the best way to do it. But it never hurts to, you know, try some craziness and see what happens, more or less. I wonder if there's any cards we should pick up now. Maybe just Rams. Well, they are still consistently the cheap heroes or the cheap classes. Oh, that's the wrong one. Legendaries and then Guardian Root. I feel like it's fairly cheap. Not that cheap though. Maybe it is. Give me the Ram. There we are. That's not that bad for a legendary. 50. The Cold Falls. Rainbow Fall? Rainbow Fall cheaper? No. I think we're getting to the point where people are rationalizing that the Rainbow Falls are harder, actually. Yeah, it's definitely worth it. I think he will really want disruption. We don't know what the mid-level set in the set is, because I assume we will get that, as per usual. The more fun, flavorful stuff for draft and that. So we might have something. I assume everything's creeping up, especially with the leak, because it definitely gives a bit more of a well-formed idea what we're shifting to. But for Guardian, again, they're still one of the cheaper. But I would assume it's like Terra Sunder. I kind of see him getting away with Stamp, weirdly. Suppose Buckle just for the Dominate. It doesn't appear like Wager's gonna come back in any fashion in the set. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's like a string of commons and rares. Definitely don't need Talk a Big Game anymore. I mean, Prime to Fight would be a 4 for 6. As Life, that's not horrendous. I really want to find somewhere to rope it in. Just to just to mess with people. That's what I'm thinking. It might get played. I mean, it's great for shutting down Assassin. That was my rationale when I was trying to work it in. Because the idea then is, you know, you go Tectonic, Stamp, 2 for Heave. That's your turn. And then what your opponent does on their turn doesn't matter. And then your next turn is most likely going to be something easy with Dominate. And then you just maybe have a pummel, right, from the intellect. Can you explore more on the intellect stuff cards for life, like Stamp Authority and the headpiece that gives 1? But I don't know if Bison will ever be worthwhile. And it's also a weird place because with what I took up in terms of its ultimate craziness, there's no middle ground, right? 1 or 2 extra cards doesn't really do a significant amount. It's going to the extreme end, which would still be the in the palm of your hands, which I still think this is probably going to be great in everyone. Especially if we get more suspense interaction, and because it seems like suspense is going to be a Guardian thing, not a Pleiades thing, right? So the fact that this is float a resource cycle, and they get a card down the line, seems really nice to me. And for whatever reason, because it's an instant with block. Is it going to do Tectonic? They're almost forced to run Tunic. I mean, Skullcap for the defense value, I suppose. Again, I'm not going to knock Surges, especially with the Surge support that we've gone with Master Pack Guardian, until we see the full set of X, Y, Z. I do think Spence is going to be huge key on how he finds some real damage. Yeah, I mean, everything we've seen suspense-wise currently is just support, though. And then we have the shenanigans in Pleiades. So it's hard to say currently. But I do like the prospect that, I mean, we've already done Pleiades and taking, I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 turns in a row. But that seems fun. But yeah, once there's enough crazy stuff out, I mean, they will basically just start with, here's Bully Tactic to clear your opponent's hand, and then here's the OTK. And weirdly, that puts them way ahead of any other OTK that I've ever thought up, because you can clear your hand. Aside from the Berserk Reiner shenanigans that I would have done at some point. I can't remember if it was this channel or my previous one. Don't clear what class you like in the palm. Yeah. Yeah. I don't. One of these should have gived. Either it shouldn't have its block value, which is probably a given, considering it's an instant, or it shouldn't have when it enters. Because it's just so easy to set up. I mean, I get it being an instant, so it doesn't work with, like, Earthlore Bounty, I suppose. Because that would be nuts. With Life, that's another thing to rationalize. Earthlore Bounty could be interesting. Again, depending on what else we get. Guardian-wise, to go with everything else. Yeah, probably not. But, again, it doesn't hurt it. In a pinch, you can block with it. It's just, oh, it's so good in Guardian. You just block out. Or if you play these, it's just... Was it an instant trigger? I can't remember. Remove suspense counter from Nora you control. Yeah, so you play it on your opponent's turn, or even if you play it on your... Yeah, you play it... Wait, what? Yeah, you play it on your opponent's turn, remove a counter, and then it triggers on your turn. And then for everyone else, it's just 2 turns. Yeah, and confidence as well, because... Wait, no, confidence... Confidence is the inverse, isn't it? Aside don't destroy this, the next attack you play, this turn can't be defended by more than 2 non-block cards. Yeah. That's fine, because no one cares about the 2. Yeah, it is literally gold, but better, to some degree. The replace aspect. Why? Why does this exist? maybe we get enough aura disruption. But it seems like all the aura disruption that we're getting is mainly focal around token, rather than actually disrupting play pieces. Interesting. And this in Cheyenne. My blitz is sorted. Weeding down, though, who I want to play for Super Slam might be a bit of a challenge. I mean, yeah, going back to what they said about gravy, it's also that aspect where you can just use it to cycle, and then you're getting the thing down the line as well. Anyway, you're getting another card back. The problem with cut through the facade is it's easy to, negate. And then it's just the case of what on board better or the cards I'm blocking with. You really need go again, right? Where it can sort of be it can be double down, where you can sort of double down on it. But then it's not your whole turn. That's sort of the problem with cut the facade. It's your whole turn, and then it's still negatable by your opponent. But if half your decks are auras, yeah, half your decks won't be auras. There's not too many great ones. None of the start of your turn buff ones will be, and I don't think there will be that level of suspense, right? Because it feels like Pleiades will have a ton, and then everyone else will have some, right? If that makes sense. And again, this won't necessarily need to be taken in conjunction. Like, I think there was one that allows you to take counters off, and that's not necessarily needed because Palms is already semi-quick, right? Not to mention, this is when it leaves the arena anyway, so your opponent destroying it is fine, right? It's the counter spells that Wizard have, kind of annoying with it being an instant, because then it never enters. So it's not necessarily bad if your opponent destroys it early. It's the ones that, are the plus, because then you can't really use them on your opponent's turn. But Pleiades will be fun, with the way you can, sort of try and align things. The weird thing is, does that make sense, right? Because they do like to keep things thematic, and aura stealing doesn't seem correct. Right? How do you steal an aura? I think it'll destroy. What do you have? So you can't through the facade, you can't defend with it, oh well. And destroy an aura they control, so it still leaves. I mean, even the new old ones is destroy, so it still leaves. Destroy, destroy. Everything's destroy. They need, like, destroy and can't trigger or something about it. I mean, one day. I mean, in most cases, you're happy for it to go. Because it doesn't have this wording, which is the issue. I mean, all it would need is when it enters or leaves the arena on your turn. I think that would actually have made it a bit more fair, right? Because then you can't play it on your opponent's turn unless it's solely to get around some form of destruction, right? So you're playing it from Arsenal, for instance. And then, as Pleiades, still getting it to resolve on your turn. But my brain also overhypes cards due to their shenanigan level, more so than their actual realistic power level. So, yeah. Take it with a grain of salt. Outside interference. This scars may reveal or attack action card. Put it into your hand. I'm curious if you just sideboard bully tactics, so it's always on call. Man, I'm scared of emboldened. Problem is, it just costs too much. That you don't really care about its replacement effect, and the fact that you have to have another aura on board anyway beforehand. I mean, it's great with, or I shouldn't say great. It's okay with Leyline, but then you have to have found Leyline first, right? But it is nice that it's stackable, I suppose. What's time? I think, we'll find one more game with Valda if Talishare is still going. Seems like it's always active now. I remember you go back a year or so, and for me in Australia, Talishare was primarily just active in the morning, right? So late night ish for US, but now it's just always busy it seems, which is fantastic to see. But yeah, we'll find one more game, and then I think we'll leave it. I'll go get some food, and then I have to write a report. Leyline exists, suspense cards exist, suspense can literally be multiple turns, also Lithe having 5-card hand, turn 0. Yeah, the 5-card turn 0. Ah, KO. Well, I can't remember. No, I take Null Rune, because there's never the great crossover point. I always forget what do I want to take here. I think it's just the Heave, maybe the Batters. Does feel like Alliance will be pretty crazy. I need to turn priority. I saw the surge. Almost accident. I definitely want the 3 from that. But yeah, so Goliath being sort of a fatigue deck will be kind of cool. Because you'll have those big swing turns where you set up, can't draw, or intellect, and go nuts. Depending on how quick this is, maybe we find another one. Okay. I was hoping for a blue. A blue here would have been much nicer. I can't really heave. I mean, batter matters for the ragamuffins, I suppose. They have 1 block, so it should be fine. I guess I keep the pummel anyway, because I really want to destroy ragamuffins. No, I can't keep the pummel, I need pitch 3. In which case I should tectonic. I mean, that's the other crazy thing you could do with life. You could just take everything that is set up and just have those real powerhouse turn 1s. And I guess we want the blue to cycle around. Oh, its stability is nice. Means we can get to our surges for next turn. Don't need the debilitates. Promising terrain. Tectonic swing. Probably what we're doing. Probably don't want to give them the extra card in hand, but oh well. Also, my apologies. That's better. Granted, I think you can still see most of the screen anyway, when I'm zoomed in for discussionary things. Alright, we have 2 AB. This still gets us 2 off of ourselves. Oh, plus their draw. Probably find another game after this. I should probably pay attention. I do like to learn. But I don't know, my brain just tunes out when it's KO like this. I also, not that you can see, but for instance, they gazed and then undid it. And it's always, sort of feel bad. Are they itching to find the correct order of things? I don't think they have enough damage here. That's just to get around. Oh, maybe with the Sonic. The resources doesn't do anything. No, it does. And then one more attack. We might live by a hair. Guess not. And I have 4, so it's pass. Pass. And I have to turn priority on. I want my free. Back to 9. What cards do we fear? I don't think there's much we fear. I can destroy their ragamuffins if I am inclined. I kind of want to keep the blue, though. I think put them in the place is fine. Or should we have 3, 5, 7? Prevent the 2. The reason to put in place of a headbutt is the blue plus the damage is what we're aiming for. So as long as we don't just draw a whole bunch of reds, I think we're fine. Instability worthwhile. I think it's just about slow playing damage at this point. Does get me a card back though. Only costs 1. Yeah. Keep the 3 blues. Headbutt's tempting because it would be a 7. I think for us, it's really just getting to the dominate. Or pummel. I can't overextend. Tectonic. So next turn should help. So it should just be pass, heave. I'm worried about what they can do on their turn. I don't know if 6 is necessarily enough. I would like to get to 6. I guess we're not. Seeing if they're responding. Heave. I don't want the red. They don't have attacks. Eruption. They can still find the other Blazing Aether. So they should still be able to go wide enough here with damage. the one matter? I need to realistically be able to prevent wildfire. I think I take the one. I want to play Eruption. Means I don't need to Tectonic. Problem is they can respond to the Eruption. No, that goes in the Arsenal, so that's fine. Should just be smelting off of that. And always keep the majority of my hand. Should have held priority so I could instant. Oh well. Taking the Arsenal then, hold on to the blues. Well, I'm more glad I held on to the blues then. It would have been one blue, two reds, and maybe a blue. Or yellow, or worse, a red. Problem is dominating while keeping enough cards, so I'm most likely waiting a turn anyway. That's worrisome though. So it's probably the Eruption. And it should be Tectonic because then that makes smelting free my next turn. But 6 is probably not enough. But technically I have to pass, see if they go for it. Hope they do prevent. And then either Tectonic or Heave. Nope. Well, I need to get rid of that. Beautiful. They can still go very, very wide though, so they should be able to do close to 8. And either way, they should be able to kill me on their turn, my turn. Just by KOing off of the amulets. Hmm. That's only incorrect if they keep going. But the incentive here is that they don't. Because, yeah. I think I'm waiting. It's whether or not 9 is enough. Technically, I should have kept the 1. No, I will keep the 1. It should just be that. Either they kill us or I kill them. At this point. It's a weird one, Heat, because it's at the beginning of your end phase you may pay. And even though I guess if it goes onto the stack, they can. So this will be for 5. There'll be 2 chip damage apiece. And it's probably enough. Nope, that'll be for 6. This is where Skullcap kind of would have been better. Yeah, because with the 4, they get over my AB no matter what. They would have still had 1 extra attack anyway. Alright. Let's find a proper game. No, but the mentality with Skullcap then is I have to let 1 more through from the Aether Wildfire. Just that way so I can prevent the amp from Aether Wildfire, which means I probably was still dead to the they open the floodgates. That was my line of thinking. But you also have the rationales. If I had Arcanite, then I would have actively taken more chip damage and tried to get them to a lower point. At less of a lower point. Win, because 7 should always be enough against them, so to speak, for me to win. Off of a dominate. Renounce, Eve, and Banner. Right. I assume this will be Germinate. So, perfect. We get to see if it's too slow or not. Alright, we have nothing to set up, so that's fine. I do want to get rid of... I forgot 1 AB. Oh well. That's how not used to Florian we are. Ugh. Pity. Well, it's a little bit harder than that now. What would I rather set up with? Guess the overswing so I can cycle it. Not great. I guess I can still get my land to swing. Meant to replace the boots. Well, I'm using the boots now, so it's not as bad. Boulder drop. Tectonic. Can't swing. Still would like to block. And cycle. I do have to kind of play around Purgatory. Renounce is great, though. I guess Renounce is the acceptable use case for them. Block out Renounce. They can probably get away with equipment for it anyway. Because of the pummel. So it should be Surface Shaking, Tectonic, and they can just force me to discard the pummel. I really want to nab the Purgatory early. Then I don't have to worry about its disruption later. At the very least, I can punish them if they don't give it. Discard's still fine. Close down their turn. Problem is, if we miss a beat with the surges, we're a bit sad. I want Crash and Bash. Free to play. I guess it's just the Crash and Bash. Final Crush is a little better. Kind of want a Tectonic, but it should probably be Spinal Crush. Vote 2. Do I get to pick? I do get to pick. Now if they use Purgatory, I can still pummel. I was very much hoping to get the Purgatory, but this will do. Rootbound? They do have enough Earth. Or even double sync is fine. We get our surges out of it. And they lose go again. Would have been nicer to set up the Promising. I wonder if I set up the Promising... They probably still wouldn't have done Purgatory because they had... what's it called? The sync. And I assume they would have had both. Promising... Eve... Swing? I kind of want to play it. In which case, then I don't worry about the disenchantment. Which means I kind of want to save it. I mean, regardless, I think Promising's correct. Just whether or not we Valda. Yes, we Valda. I'm not going to Valda. I'll wait a turn. Because maybe they still Purgatory here. Well, I suppose if I Velded and they Purgatory, it would have been fine. I want to make Purgatory either the best thing to use or the awkward thing to use. What we're aiming for. Which I suppose putting them in their place would have been better. Problem is, our hand sucks. The Crush and Mash gets us to 3, which gets us an extra card. Prismatic's not needed. And I guess it's cycle the pummel. Blocks 5, which is too much. I can also keep that and just hope I draw a blue. Yeah, I should probably just hope I draw a blue. At the very least, I can still just send it dominated. Keep an eye. I don't have a crush card. I did not think that through. Yeah. I always just assume that I have a crush card. Oh well. We take the misplays. Feels rough. Maybe should have gone for Tectonic there. It should have been Cycle. Oopsie daisy. Especially because I could put priority on and resolve the crown first. Oh well. Would we have drawn a blue? No. It doesn't matter. I was thinking of the Promising Terrain proc. This is not a great hand. I don't think it's really worth cycling though either. Well, I guess to heave. That means I want to cycle the Arsenal card. I guess we want to always deny the life gain. It's just by how much. Try the shield. Oh, God's sakes. And punished for not blocking with one more card, but I was expecting to be able to play one of them. This is the problem. Sometimes. Really, oh God, I want to get rid of one extra. But whatever. There's Leyline. And another red. Unfortunately. We are just going to slowly die to the rune chance, though. I don't like taking as much chip damage as we are, but oh well. Play line and swing. Granted, our hands haven't really been great in terms of having stuff to pitch into the rune chant anyway. I think we've cycled away all of the Valda specs as well, so they're all at the bottom. Still have the eruptions though. There's still a decent chunk of ways for us to get our seismic surges back. And it looks like they won't deny the ley line. It's nice in this sense that ley line pressures equipment. It's coming back. I loved this when it was first revealed, then I thought it was so-so. But it's still enough pressure on board, even if it doesn't get us to Valda. Hmm. Still not enough. Unless they have another 4. Oh, I didn't realize they've gone through all their fellings. Crash and Bash is nice. Then we can renounce. This is eating away at us, though. Technically, I don't even have to keep the Tectonic, so I can block 6 here. Probably what we're meant to do. Would I rather Arsenal? I think I'd rather Arsenal the Tectonic. Or am I just pitching it? I really don't want them to Purgatory. I'd rather get the guarantee. Especially because if it was a Purgatory... I'm dumb. Purgatory requires 2 cards, and one of them is not a defense reaction, so it's always fine. Alright, no root chance for a turn. Sort of helps. Vote 1. Not great. Nice, That means it's Hammer Swing, which is not great. But it would be 3. Sets us up for a Dominate next turn. Versus just trying to deal damage. Which I think is what I kind of have to do. Definitely running through their deck, though. But I think with the Rune Chant chip damage, we probably can't claw this back too well. Yeah, the denying your own life gain with Reaping Blade does not seem great. And this is good enough to shut down other fatigue. Plus, not to mention the chip damage. Oh yeah, plus tree amps it. Not to mention it will just chip us down at this point. Our turn. That, and then I'd like to set up. Which means I have to keep that for the heave. It means we take the 3. I'm sad. But we really have to keep the dominate. Hopefully we see Germinate. That will complete the day. They actually pull off the win through Germinate, but so far we've seen them pitch it away. Leave that. Gain a little bit of life. There's an Erupt. Not a great hand. Especially when that takes our attack away. Well, that's saddening. Also, once again, not getting anything out of the Crash and Bash. I need to keep the... We've not drawn well this game, have we? Yeah, but we want to see them just generate a whole bunch of rune chant, right? They're online and gain some life. Not to love. Oh, there's a Valda spec. And there's the tree. So, yeah. Wonderful 4 damage a turn. I mean, that's enough to kill us quickly. What are we doing? I can erupt just to Valda. No, I don't need to. We're at 2. And that's the pummel. I don't need that. Let's erupt. Valda. Pummel. Maybe don't die next turn. Maybe. Well, we've done kind of well without the rune chant. Yeah, with the 3 cost. Hopefully this slows them down enough, though. Give them a bad draw for once. I'm not going to complain because we're at 6 anyway. Alright, they can't keep tree, but we are still dead to other things next turn. Do I want the blue is the question. It's basically just that. See, this is where having Arcane would have been nice. Is there anything they can react with on a Dread Scythe? I don't think so. So I guess it's arsenaling the solid ground and hoping their next turn isn't arcane damage. It probably is. If we had a pummel, the boulder drop would have been nicer. But they had another tree. Interesting. That should just be lethal, though. Maybe they have something else going on. Same thing. There we go. And Germinate. Well, Germinate wins the day, sort of. One more. We'll do one more. I very much enjoy playing this deck. Remember the AB. Well, they saw the arcane seeds and went, that's enough anyway, so that's fine. I mean, no, that was correct, because their last card was, I don't think it was reduced, but it was a red. They wouldn't have been able to tree inside. Yes, I won't forget my AB this time. I definitely played enough Basilios to not forget it. Crash and Bash is pointless. This early on. Guess the pummel's the thing to keep. I like Skullcap just because it also has the block. It can help in a pinch if they go real big. But 2 for the what's it called? The surge effects is seemingly correct. What are the chances they attack? Shock is an instant. I mean, it doesn't matter about blocking with it, it's just a 3 block anyway. But the hope is, because I want to cycle the batter as well, kinda. Then at least with our opening hand we could do something. But alas. Batter destroys nothing, so it's not really threatening. Yeah, but the question was whether or not to pitch the batter, then the crash. Hope they attack, and then get rid of the debilitate. Because basically the way my mind goes is the priority of what to keep and pummel still up there because, you know, with the boulder drop, yeah, if this was yellow, we'd be super happy. But it's not. But I will keep the boulder drop for the next turn. It's definitely disrupting their hand is what we care about. Especially with a red pummel, would have been really nice. Because either way, it's clawing at the majority of their hand. It didn't cycle. Blue first. We can't cycle, so I always want the red. In case we draw badly. Or badishly. I mean, maybe they're just drawing badly, but their hand is very, very full of garbage. Alright, boulder drop. I also hate this because I can't see my surges. I think we had one, right? Which means that is fine. And we can pitch the chokeslam. But because I don't know, I'm pitching the pummel, I suppose. We had one. Which is fine. It means I just tectonic. Have I done this incorrectly? Yes, I have. It's just that. Done. Interesting. See, I really like the idea behind that for both Acilio and Verdance, them being split. And you can, you know, come across a very aggressive warrior-esque. Well, warrior-esque is not right. Very aggressive physical damage version. And then on the other side of that, right? Fully tuned arcane. and somewhere in between. Very flavorful. So far, far away from getting damage down. We still have to eat through their equipment too. There's an eruption. Hold priority because I need to think. If I do it, I can't do jack shit with it. Because reds again. God. My turn is very much just set up. I think 3 is enough, or do I want to get to 5? You know what? We just go for 1. We've been drawing badly, so at least this way our attack is free. Which aura? The ripple away. The opt. They can stack, like you said. Oh, we did get Valda spec back. That's nice. I mean, I do kind of want to get lower than them. It does feel like we're just racing. I don't necessarily have to use the shield. The issue with this is I can't cycle, so maybe Crown would have been better here. But I'd like to play the Valda spec, but there's no guarantee that it lands. But really, I should rely on the heaving. For that. Play that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, gonna be interesting. I mean, it's still good. Going Flash will still chip us down a good chunk of damage. Problem is, putting them in their place also doesn't necessarily do enough, right? So they can just clear their hand. Do we care about the arcane? I think I want to do what I said, so put them in their place is the only card that gives. Yeah, fine. There's probably something worse coming with the amp, but then I'd have to give the blues anyway. Yeah, like that. How much does it have to deal? 3 or more? So our turn becomes play that. I probably can't afford Leyline because I want to stick at 3s. I also don't want to pitch it away. Do that. I can think. That's being played for free. So I can either set up 2 and get the 1 off of this. And then Leyline 6 around. And chances are they can't block it and Leyline's safe anyway. Then it becomes more significant the further this match goes on. No, but they're Wizard. They have enough ways to pop it. I would assume they have enough ways to pop it. Eh. Oh well. And maybe I would have rathered the Arsenal card or slash, guaranteed attack. I think I should have pitched the Leyline. An instant. Weirdly, when you're on... What am I? I'm on always pass priority. It always comes. Ugh. Which is kind of nice, because then I would forget about things. Because I always forget to hold priority going to the end of turn. I would assume they end up breaking the chain. I should be able to block somewhat well. Why does it feel like their turn was not very significant for the amount of cards they had? Is it just me, or is what they're doing being somewhat weird? Um, Nothing in Arsenal. I kind of want to pummel, but I can't pummel. So that and that and that is fine. I just give the pummel and stash the renounce. Like, I'm not wrong. They had a massive hand there, didn't they? What was it? It was Sigil, Mind Warp, Fluttering Charge, Flittering Charge. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I guess what? No, they didn't have to pitch. Alright, we'll see what happens now. That's my heave, if need be. This costs 1. They're going to draw a card, so... I can't remember if that triggers Valda, because it's at the beginning. It should trigger Valda. The Renounce is free. So... I don't care about the surface shaking, I think. Yeah. Renounce is free. And it's either pummel, if I need to block, or heave. And then this is just pitchables into the arcane. So I think we're good. Alright, prevents channel lightning, because it's... Wait, what's the exact wording of channel lightning? They can't play it? Because can't you respond to things at the beginning of your action phase? I was thinking about the amp and surge. I think if it's channel, it's fine. I'll remember that for next time. Alright, I do. I don't have less life than them anymore. Never mind. Guess we're taking the 4. At least down below them. They burn through all their sigils? Or are they bouncing one of them? Is there any scenario where they get me to play the old one? They'd have to get me to 5, because then I can pummel it. But now I can Arcanine block. It's not the worst turn if it's just Renounce anyway. They had nothing to capitalize on. Renounce is, sort of okay. I wish the top line was any aura. Another read the ripples. Crash and Bash gets us to 3, so that's nice. which then makes solid ground free. They get us anyway. Never mind. But I guess it's to 4, so Chokeslam is free. Not the greatest hand, though, but they are getting low enough. Which should be fine. Hmm. Problem is, any of their surge effects now land. But it's just damage. We like it when it's just damage. Click the staff. Well, no, I suppose they could have another one. God. I'm gonna say 0, because I do kind of want to get under them again. Guess there was also a rationale just to solid ground there. Considering Crash and Bash would have still pitched into Chokeslam and Tectonic. Yeah, that was my mistake. I took 2 more damage than I needed. But I want to keep the blue. Oh well. Ooh. You're saying take the damage from this sigil that shuts down channel. Okay. Seems like whatever they're doing this turn is going to be big anyway, since they cracked the bindings. Headbutt's nice. We also get an extra card. So this is free, plus whatever we draw. I think we should be fine. Another brilliance. At least we know that's in their hand. I assume it's just a big gore on the flash turn. Which could definitely kill us. Hmm. How likely am I to... Well, ball drop's probably better. Only if I draw a pummel. Feel the headbutt. This blocks for 2. I guess is good enough. I can't really rationalize how much damage I should be taking. My brain's not in it. Because a Mind Warp here definitely sucks for us. So, one more card and they're out of range anyway. And was there a way if I got under them? But they still had 1 action point left, I think. Yeah, so it would still be another go on the flash. What was the last string? 4-2. It wouldn't matter if I got under them. Because the most I could prevent from that was 5, so it still would have done 7. They're on 7, so I would have been on 6. So, yeah. Oh well. Ugh. Ooh, 3 o'clock. I need to go eat something. Oh, I'm fading. But, we'll leave there. Everyone's still hanging around. Thanks. Interesting to see what unfolds from the bands, as well as what comes with Super Slam. Right? Spoilers start this weekend, which is cool. Yeah, beautiful. Comes so quickly, thinking about it. The only other thing I do want to sort of add to this is I'm still not the biggest fan of this because with how the community is for Flesh and Blood, right, being so mechanic driven over rarity or anything like that, it's not great. Just having cards. It's not scalp, that's not the right word, but the secondary market around the release of a set is always annoying to see. We'll go with that, right? So I do kind of wish the previews were a bit earlier. I know they want the world premiere to be a big event, but they could easily show all the mechanic stuff, right? And then have all the big stuff still for the world premiere, or even the Marvels or the chase rarity, right? And try to. I mean, they're trying to course correct and have rarity be a bit more of a factor, but we like to play the game. The game is fantastic, well designed, and we just want the cards. So basically, what happens is we get the previews, we get the world premiere, and then it's a mad dash to crack, sell, find, get for all your events. Expecting Gravy to die down, but no shot. He's not a deck that will be completely. Yeah, no, he's too popular. Again, going back to the whole statement, it's not an issue of he's a great deck. He's a good deck, but he's just really popular. Playstyle and the thematics. But we'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed, and see you next time, maybe.